Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Road to Financial Freedom, a podcast that allows experts to come on and share their stories and secrets to unlocking their financial independence. This podcast is brought to you by CamaPlan, a self-directed IRA administrator in Ambler, Pennsylvania, that is focused on educating investors with different ways to grow their retirement savings faster through alternative assets. I'm Jess Jones. I am a team member over at CamaPlan, and I'm also one of the hosts of this podcast. I'm super excited to introduce to you another host of the podcast, today's guest, and one of CamaPlan's original founders, Maggie Polisano. It's so great to sit down and talk to you, Maggie.
Oh, thanks, Jess. Yes, I'm a founder of the self-directed company CamaPlan. I've been this for the past 14 years, but this was not something I jumped right into out of college or thought that I'd want to be an owner in a self-directed company. It was something that evolved over a number of years. I studied computer science at Villanova, went into programming, system design, and on the side, through my family's businesses, I've always been in real estate and found real estate to be one of my side businesses that in turn came into being part of my full-time in the last 14 years here at CamaPlan. So thanks so much for having us on the show. I'm excited to talk about CamaPlan and what it does.
Awesome, as am I. So going back to what you were saying with your original background and what you got started on in real estate, what particularly drew you to real estate investing? Or as an early investor, did you have any success stories, any obstacles that you had to overcome, or any big lessons that you learned when you were first starting out in investing?
Well, what I learned about it, it was always something that we learned or heard about in our house. My dad was a real estate investor, as his mother was, with apartment buildings, single family homes. It was something that I did not see him going to the office doing. It wasn't a typical 9 to 5 job, as a lot of my friends' parents or fathers had at that time. And it was something that allowed him to be at my sporting events. And this was something that brought in revenue. I didn't know that I was thinking about it then, but it was something that I found very natural for myself. So from that standpoint, I understood the purchasing, the title of the property, taxes that were involved. So that wasn't a learning curve for me. And I also understood the rents would come in without me actually having to go to work every day. So that was something that I was interested in doing as a side job because I had my IT job. That's kind of how I got into it. It was more of a natural progression that happened. And I think over time, like the pitfalls you're going to have, and this was kind of helpful from my system standpoint, a big processy put in place as far as the rental agreements and where the calls would go into, where the ads were placed for the rental agreements. These are things that help me be successful when owning property and collecting the rents.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So you have a background and studied computer sciences, and you said this is, not something you saw yourself doing full time. So did you want to talk more about how you and your brother Carl came about finding CamaPlan and how the mission statement became, by investors for investors?
Yeah, no, so that's exactly right. So we were both investors, and the retirement plans and the view of retirement plans are seen a little different in my eyes, I think, and becoming more and more other educated investors, more than retirement plans, but tax tools. And I look at how we ended up in this business is we both were real estate investors. I had a systems background. He understood, he had a mortgage company. He understood a lot of the structuring and tax rules related to real estate and the power of the self-directed IRA. So let me just give you a little example of what that means. Somebody that's successful with their personal money and is investing in real estate, and they say they have 5 real estate projects going on, maybe they can take one of those because they're paying too much in taxes on the money they're making from those real estate deals, and they put one in their retirement plan. Now that's allowing all those earnings are tax deferred or tax free if it's in a Roth. So that's what I mean by a tax tool. That retirement plan becomes involved in the real estate industry because it's as a tax tool. So it also serves as, a tax deferred tool to their income. So their earned income, if they have a solo 401k, they can put in 56,000 a year and shelter that also from tax, and now invest that in a piece of real estate. So that's how that came into the real estate world of, the joining of the retirement plan, the self-directed retirement plan in real estate. That's how these two merged for us. And as a real estate investor, as we were both real estate investors, we thought a lot of other real estate investors in a whole could benefit from the self-directed, allowing this tool to be part of their toolbox.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you kind of touched on this before, but what do you think makes a successful investor in your opinion? Is there what's the investor's personal toolbox, I guess, that they would need in addition to their tax toolbox?
Yeah, I think in any investment, knowledge, right? Knowledge is going to allow someone to be successful. And as I said before, a lot of our clients are people that are successful with their personal funds, right? So somebody that's
Mhm.
successful in real estate, they're going to see the power in the self-directed IRA as a tax tool before somebody that's not real estate investing, just because they can see the money that can be saved within these investments. But regarding what makes somebody successful, I think if somebody's on the incoming and they're learning, do something small, understand the process, right? That's gonna strengthen their knowledge. Always organization, being organized, knowledge, organization, and I think a passion. You've got to have a passion
Mhm.
in order to be, really good at something. So if when you have a passion, you're going to be more inclined to get educated, building your knowledge uh, and making sure that that's successful.
Yeah. Do you have any specific due diligence tips or educational tips for people who are just starting out? I know, like myself, I'm always trying to learn a little bit more because I came on to CamaPlan as the front desk person answering phones and learned a little bit more that way and would kind of try to, in my spare time, learn more about investing in like the little downtime I had between phone calls. So, do you have any resources that you turned to when you were first starting out that gave you that power and that knowledge?
Yeah, and again, and I don't I think because I grew up in a real estate family that I had that, but I think starting small to where you don't get nervous, you're not going to lose all of your savings. But I think a good place to look also, if you're not ready to go and buy a piece of property, and again, if you're not successful with your personal money and doing this in your IRA, but I think notes are a good place. You can, use a small amount of money and see the return that comes in on your investment via notes, and they're real estate related. And again, I'm speaking on investments that are real estate or real estate related. So I don't know enough to go and talk to you about stocks and bonds and so forth. Mine is strictly in the real estate world, but I think it's a pretty black and white topic, which I think is really easy for someone to understand. So to answer your question, I think if we have a lot of 101 classes at CAMA, and I think if you just start small, come to the 101 classes and listen to some of the asset providers and what they're having, what their returns are, and kind of go through play by play. Like if you invested this much, what would you look to? What are your risks? What is this loan secured by? And understanding. And again, it's becoming educated. So if you're going to put the time in, I would put the time in to get educated before you even take a step.
Definitely. And as a real estate investor, did you find that when you were developing CamaPlan, was there an overlap? I guess was there a time where you were building this business, still investing in real estate, raising your family? Was there a time that you found that you had to juggle all these three things? And did you have to develop strategies or personal mantras for yourself during that time?
Yeah, I did. I started the business when the girls were young. I missed a few things, and there's always, you're wondering if you do things better. And one thing that comes to mind is I was helping somebody open an account, and I missed my oldest daughter's bridge to Girl Scouts from Brownies. I still feel guilty about it, but so those are little things that I've done along the way. But just as I was there for the coaching, so I have my girls were of a young age at the time that we started the business to, me build doing the some of my real estate projects. There's been frustrations with those and dealing with the counties, different counties, environmental issues. And there's always a balance. I had a list of priorities and things that, I think that really helped me. And my girls have also benefited, from this. They've heard me on the phone with the county. They've heard the investment processes and they respect it. But I think you got to keep your priorities, your family, should be first. And you can do this. I think there's so many women out there today that are in the same place I am or was. And I think it's there's definitely a balance. And yes, you're not going to do everything 100%. I use it like an 80-20 rule. I think that a lot of women fall into, and your kids are most important. And yes, you're not going to be there for everything, but you pick what you think is the most important. And there's times that you have big projects that need to happen in a timeline, but something's happened within your family life, and you drop, because your kids and your family are most important. And, in our business, the IRS is very important and they're second in line. So that's the first and foremost. Like, we make sure our business, and I want to sleep at night. So I'm not really risk involved. If it's black or white, I'm doing the white. I'm not doing the black, and I'm probably not doing anything close to gray just because I was spread. And I think if you're able to do that, you're able to be very successful. And I think going back to what I had said before, having the knowledge, building knowledge, working with people that aren't afraid to ask questions, being organized, and most of all, having a passion for something. I think that that's going to allow you, if you're willing to go get the knowledge and you're organized about something, you have passion, that's really something that's, you're not going to be stopped. Because I think that's, a lot of women's businesses are grown like that. And women tend to be, and I come from a very large family of boys. I have 9 brothers, but I think women are more passionate. I think and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't want any men coming after me like, hey, I'm not passionate, but I do. I think they're more, I should say they're more
I
emotional.
agree with you. So.
So they have,
Mhm.
and and I'm not going to be the first to say this. They can multitask probably better than men, and I think that that's why you can have a family, you can have a business. And I mean, there's just things that are going to be little things that will be sacrificed along the way. Just make sure they're not the major things. And listen, I haven't done everything right. I think those are my structures or my pillars.
Yeah, and I love that. I come from, a household where it was me and my sister, and my mom was working growing up too. So, I give her, crap about missing my spelling bee in 4th grade. My sister did, but, it's not like she missed high school graduation. So, and she was bringing in the main income in my household. So, I have major respect for mothers who are working, and mothers who are kicking booty as mothers, and that's their job, so I just have major respect for it. So it's awesome to hear that, especially as a young woman coming out of, a few years out of college, and I have a theater and English degree, so it's, ending up here at CamaPlan and educating incoming investors is not where I thought my life was gonna go either, but it's something I'm extremely passionate about now. So it's awesome to hear that, you can do it all.
Yeah, no, it is. And there's one thing, like, as a mom and as a business owner and woman, that resonates with me. It's, what did I teach you? Like, and I think of this as it pertains to my girls or my mom to me. What did I teach you when I wasn't teaching you? Right. So, and hopefully I'm not, I know, and I've never said to the girls, hey, these are your priorities, or, these, but hopefully that's come through to them. Like, hey, I hope that they notice, yes, I missed a few things along the way, and I'm sure they're going to let me know, as you're letting your mom know they missed the spelling bee. But at the end of the day, what are we passing on to them? Right. So what are we passing on to them as strong women, as strong children? Like, have your priorities right, so, and allow you to live a great, healthy life. Be
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
So,
Yeah, I love that, and that brings me to kind of one of the biggest points that I wanted to talk about today is just as a woman, as an investor, did you ever experience like nowadays you see way more women that are becoming entrepreneurs and things like that, and you didn't see as many women in these fields like medicine or law back however 20, 30, 40 years ago. And now it's such an even playing field, and it's becoming more and more even as the years go on. But did you ever, like, from personal experience, did you ever experience obstacles or challenges as a woman coming that aren't as obvious now, or as challenging now?
Yeah, like, and as I mentioned earlier, I have 9 brothers, so of course I wanted to play on the baseball team because my brother was on the baseball team. Well, there was no baseball team for me to join. And I always wanted to do what they were doing. I think that's natural for a younger sister or a sister of a lot of brothers. And in the work world, you're still going to have some of the prejudices as with the women or but yeah I've experienced it, and I think it doesn't, and I don't know that this is the right way to treat it, but when we do experience it, it doesn't really bother me, and I think it's because I'm in business with my brother. If I do realize somebody's not really and it's maybe not a female male thing, but if somebody's going to be more interested in Carl speaking to them than myself, then yes, Carl will go speak to them. But then there's the women, or there's some people that feel more comfortable talking to me in regard to their investments. So I think we have a good balance there, and I think it's from a standpoint of like, to answer your question as far as moving the women ahead in the world, and I think it's great. I think the world as a whole is becoming less prejudiced, and I think it's still got a way to go, but I think we're moving in the right direction. And I do from time to time, and it's over the course of the 14 years, however many, 25 years that I've been in the business. It's something that, again, I think there's ways to work around it if it's still present. I have experienced it, and I found, yes, there's been positions that men felt that women shouldn't be in, or vice versa. So you're still going to have some of that in some of the areas, but I think if you have the expertise behind what you need to do, and you sometimes going to need to prove it more than somebody else would, and I think that's you, again, you cannot stop pushing forward, and I think that I love it, and I think it gives women more strength, and people that are afraid to get out there, I think it's giving them some leverage and some power, into going out there, hearing other women on how they did it. Yes, and if you are, intimidated or whatever, go out and read on the internet of all these success stories of these women. And yes, everybody has those scared points in their life. So, don't let that hold you back. I think that that's something that these women know, that they're just as much, if not, more at times than somebody prepared and better at these roles. So I don't see it so much as an obstacle. I just know the awareness is out there.
Yeah, I love the phrasing of that, not seeing it as an obstacle, as there are ways to strategize around it. Like you were kind of just saying, even when I was up at the front desk, if I knew someone would give me a rough time for whatever reason because I was a woman behind a phone, I would turn it into a strategy and try to use that power to get them to be a little sweeter to me or something like that.
I love it, and I love that outlook too, because it's all how it's all how you handle a problem, right? And I remember when we were in back in the day, I worked for an apparel company, and they did point of sales machines, and we had to take the beeper home. Of course, now I'm really dating myself because we didn't have like phones, but we were on the beeper and we were on call. So if it's your line of code that went down, or it was an error, we didn't really say it was an error. It was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to fix something. So I think if you look at this, all depends on how you look on it. Some days you don't have that, you don't have the energy to look at it as an opportunity, but these are things that you have to recognize, and I think that's going to make you successful if you're able to get over those little opportunities, as we call them. So I think that was very smart at you at the front desk.
Yeah, just trying to take an opportunity, just like you have, an opportunity to turn an obstacle into a fun hurdle to jump over.
Yes, yes.
Like,
You got to have
and
sense of
to,
humor. That was one thing. I think you have to be able to laugh at yourself, have a sense of humor.
yeah, exactly. I think taking yourself too seriously it's important to take yourself seriously, obviously, but I think taking yourself too seriously sometimes sets you up for failure. You can't communicate as well with somebody, or you can't see things in those shades of gray when it's not black and white if you're taking things too seriously. So I think having a good sense of humor about things is helpful. I think just for a successful person in general, it helps you. I know for me personally, when I was auditioning, when I was doing theater stuff, it made things a million times easier to be able to laugh at myself for cracking in the audition, like my voice cracking in the audition, and picking myself back up and getting back on the horse for the next one. So I love that outlook of it's not an obstacle. It's a way to push forward.
No, and I do think, back to the whole, women in the workforce. I've coached my girls, I coached volleyball, and I think a big thing, and I teach with that along with the sport, is being a team player, right? A team player, you have to, and that plays part of it, right? So you've got somebody to pick you up, like, that, yes, you can laugh at yourself, but there's times that others are going to need to help. And then the other big thing is be a fountain, not a drain, right? Give off and don't be sucking in. So these are very important things, I think, as you teach young women. I think sports are important, that they learn whatever they're doing, whether they're in a band or a sport, that they are team players. So, and that's a big proponent to being successful. Like, you have to be able to listen, communicate, and as a team player, and be a
Yeah, that's
fountain.
one thing I love about working at CamaPlan is that I do feel like I'm part of a team. Even when I was up at the front desk passing phone calls, that was being part of a team. Here now in marketing and working on this podcast, producing this podcast, we're all part of a team.
Yes.
That's one thing I've really loved about working here. And as business owners, you and Carl, I think, have made it very clear that there's a team at work here.
Great. I'm glad you feel that way. It is. And it's
Yeah,
fun. It
definitely.
makes fun. Like I said, I come from a competitive family, and I come from
Mhm.
a competitive background, but you got to laugh, and it's got to feel like a team, like we're working towards something. Like, what are we doing? Right. So
Right.
I'm glad you feel that way.
Until it's karaoke night, then it's cutthroat. It's
Right.
competition. Then
Ooh,
I'm
that's
coming
going to
for
be
you.
rough on everyone when I get up to sing.
It's you know what? It's the only group of people I think I could, in any group of people I've ever worked with, only group of people I think I would actually get up and sing with.
I don't
So
know, Jess. You're pretty good. You could get up anywhere. Now, a lot of the other ones in the office, I'm going to bring my earplugs, and I'm going to use my earplugs probably when I sing also.
yeah, the key is a lot of duets. I
Yes.
think that's
Yeah.
group numbers definitely. Blend if you need to,
Yes.
but stand out if you need to too. I think that applies for
Hmm.
business as well. I think
Hey,
being a team
and
player.
hey, put yourself where it's uncomfortable. You got to do that sometimes, right? It's
Yes.
it's part of the learning curve. You may not get better at singing, but you've made yourself uncomfortable, and you're probably going to bond with some other, poor singing people also.
Yeah, exactly. And so to go back quickly to, you had mentioned, both of your parents were such major influences on exposing you to real estate investing and things like that. Are there any other lessons that you learned from them that carried through in your investment processes or strategies, and things that, it doesn't even have to necessarily be for investments, but things that you've used as an investor or a businesswoman personally?
Hmm. Yeah, I find that I try not to, like, if I'm certain things, and this is my personal preference. I invest in things that I really like or know, and if it's real estate, I try to invest in a. I'm looking at it. I'm like, wow, that's a really nice house, or a really good value. It's usually, and like, something that I would want to stay in, right? So that's something that some people may not do it. They do it on sheer numbers, but I've looked at properties and investments that way. The notes portion of it, that's more of a numbers thing for me. From the notes standpoint, is I'm big on what the note is secured by. I think that's a big thing. Like, are you in first position on that note? I mean, what is that note secured by? The loan to value. So those are things, from a I don't, my parents, I don't think I could have asked for two better people. Like, my mom, she was, someone that, she wasn't involved in working day to day, but she had 12 kids, and she had her own. I mean, she was very organized from that standpoint. My father understood the real estate. So I had like a great upbringing, very secure, loving home. But, and just from the commonality of just having real estate in the background of our house, I learned how, again, like I came back from the beginning of our discussion, how my dad could attend a lot of my sporting events because he didn't need to be working 9 to 5. Now, did I like that at the time? No, but but he was around a lot. So I think that was a benefit I saw from real estate, the structure, the organization, from my father to my mom, whether it was my mom. And, that from the investment standpoints, what I like to invest in is things that interest me, things that I have a passion for, things that the positioning and security is big for me, as far as the real estate notes. I don't know if I answered every aspect of that question as you asked it. So feel free to dig in deeper if I didn't.
No, I think that answers pretty much all of it. The fact that, they informed so much of, it sounds like, your parenting for your daughters, but also your strategizing as an investor. And it sounds like you had such a great balance of home and of business growing up.
And one other thing I think that's important, that if you're a new investor, and something that you're a
Mhm.
new investor, and I think that's helpful, and I try to parlay it to the girls, my daughters, or younger investors, is that know what something costs. Like if you're doing a fixer upper and you're hiring people to do work, you need to get 3 to 5 estimates on something. Know what something costs, like before you start paying this money out. So get organized. Like, okay, if I put this much money in and I'm going to sell it, what's my likelihood of selling it for this? All that, the fixer uppers. If you're going to go do the real estate, you need to know what something costs. Just because one person gives you a bid of a certain amount, that's that's a learning curve, right? So if you're not in this business day to day, I don't care, whatever, part of it's understanding the cost of something. Just because it's being sold for this, it may not be worth that. So I think that's a big thing. Like, as the younger generations come in, you have to know what something's worth.
Yeah, definitely. I really love that, and I think that's something I wanna, as I go forward and try to figure out how to manage my money, it's something I wanna start, thinking of as well, so it's awesome to hear that. And then last, I guess, but not least, would be if you could sum everything up in maybe like 1 to 2 sentences of what you think your keys to building financial wealth and unlocking your financial freedom would be. I know you've touched on so much of it already, but if you could sum it up, what do you think it would be? And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a financial mantra, but just something that's informed the way you've always looked at success.
Okay, so success. Again, I'm going to come back to my priorities. So your priorities are, your health and your happiness, and I think your family's health and happiness is paramount. And I think that, what do you need for that to happen? So I think that's what I first would look at, because that's how I would measure my success. We're happy and healthy, and moving the ball forward. Like, you always want to be learning. I think learning is, once you stop learning, it really life becomes boring. Yeah. So the things that help with health and happiness, you know, and then you know realizing what your passion is, not what your neighbor's passionate or your best friend's passion about. Know what makes you happy, right? So, and then a big thing, like if you're in the investment world too, I think you got to look at the tax savings tools. Figure out what you're going to be paying in taxes, because that's where a lot of your money goes, and pay attention to where those are, and go to presentation seminars that are around taxes, and where you're going to be paying most of your taxes, what states you pay the most tax, and where's all your tax money going. Because I think that's kind of, that's going to be, you're going to go clip coupons. That's not going to save you nearly as much, right,
Yeah,
as you would
right.
if you found a few tax savings tools. So whatever industry you're in, look at where your taxes are going, and kind of take a step back, really take a step back, and learn about it. If you're looking to be successful and build wealth, I think you need to, you know, I think you need to, that's what you need to do. And I think, and if you're looking to build a business, I think you need to be knowledgeable, organized, and have a passion for it. And those are the three, things to build a business. Knowledgeable, organized, and passionate. And you have to have a customer service. If you're in some type of service business, your passion will come through with the customer service. So
Yeah.
did I answer that?
Yeah, you answered it. Home run.
Oh, okay.
Hit a home run with it. I really think that that's awesome. And thank you again so much for joining us and doing this first episode with us. I really look forward to learning more from you in future podcast episodes we do
We're going to
together.
be spending a lot of time together, Jess, whether you like it or not. But thank you so
I
much. You
can't
did a
wait.
wonderful
It's going
job.
to
Thank
culminate
you.
in a duet, girl. Just you wait.
Yes. Yeah,
So the
we will
last thing
not
I
have that
can
on a podcast. We will not.
Unfortunately, no, that's gonna be in the dark corners of
Yeah.
YouTube for anybody who needs it. Lastly, before we head off, where can people go to learn more about CamaPlan or, learn more about you and connect with you or follow you, any social media or any websites, anything like that, that you want people to connect with you around?
Sure. We have a lot of information at www.camaplan.com. A lot of information there, and I am there right now. We're not there because of this pandemic that we're in. I can be reached via my extension through that there, or via email, mpolisano@camaplan.com. I'd be happy to help anyone, talk to any women investors or any men or women investors.
Yeah, definitely. We're more than happy to get in touch with you. So tune in next week to hear more from our experts who have paved their roads to financial freedom, or call today and learn more about how you can start taking control of your future wealth. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.